men, for those of you watching this later, I am doing one of my impromptu unscheduled live streams. And so I just start the stream a little early while I get set up and wait for some people to come. It's a really, really, really stupid way to do things, but it amuses the shit out of me, so. And tonight, because it's beautiful, I'm sitting outside and smoking the cigar while we talk. What will we be talking about, you ask? I don't know. No one's here yet. Also, I'm flying blind on the chat. Now we got 2 people here. I do not have the chat open. So, hey, William West is here. How you doing, sir? So I unless I catch it while it flies past, I will not know what's going on in the chat. So if you want me to see something, you might have to send it a couple times. I'm not dragging the computer out of here. Hey, Harold Sanders is here. Howdy. Les. Thank you, Les. Glad you're here, brother. Clancy Russell, hello. I actually don't know what our topic is this evening. What I was thinking about was why MAGA will win. Let me light this thing real quick. But I was also thinking we could talk about, so you think you want a trad wife. Maybe that's what we should talk about. You think you want a trad wife. Tim Pack is here. Good evening, sir. Tampa Vikings? Well, we'll leave it up to the chat. Do we want to talk about why MAGA will win? Or do we want to talk about, so you think you want a trad wife? I think you can see my trad wife in the background. If you're looking at my, hold on a second. Isaac. Yeah, someone was just saying they're not 100% happy with Vance as VP. Okay, so Isaac, hello. I wanted Vivek. Okay, Isaac wanted Vivek as VP, but JD Vance seems well up to the job. Yeah, I don't know where I'm at on JD Vance. He doesn't insult me. I'll be honest with you. I really thought, given the headway we're making with especially Black and Latino men this time around, I really thought we should have gone that route. There's qualified Black and Latino candidates out there, and as long as they're qualified candidates, all things being equal, if a Black or Hispanic candidate's going to bring more votes, I'd bring them on. I know Ben Carson is probably a little older than they were wanting. They were, Trump really. What I read this, so this is not an original thought to me. I don't have very many original thoughts. Is that Trump with Vance is bringing up the next generation of MAGA. Because Vance is a young man, younger. I think he's 39 or just now 40. He's not very old at all. He's reliably MAGA in Trump's view, and he's the future of Trump's political legacy if Don Jr. or someone doesn't step up, which they don't seem to be, because they're not, like Don's not doing anything to get himself started. He hasn't run for a safe seat in Florida or anything. No. So it looks like. That's why Trump chose Vance. He literally chose a successor. He did not choose a. My problem with Vance, Isaac, and if any of you in the chat are Catholic, I apologize. I'm about to insult you, but he's Catholic, and he converted to Catholicism. I'm okay with people who have been Catholic their whole lives. I'm always questioning when someone makes a big change like that, Uh, why? Anywho. And apparently his wife is not a believer, so he's in a mixed faith marriage, which is also just a little concerning because, you know, if the enemy really wants to go after him, he's got an avenue right there to do it. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Vance, but there are some warning signs. It sounds like y'all men want to talk about why MAGA will win. The trad wife is out of the window anyway, so we can probably do both. This is going to take about an hour because I'll start talking and it'll go out and I'll have to relight it and it'll be, and then one of you guys will say something interesting and we'll go off on a rabbit trail. I kind of touched on this last week and it's just been percolating in my mind since then. I try not to expose myself to too much video that's going to affect my state of mind, you know. They also had an atheist, Satanist, prostitute, and also a sick demon prayer. Yellow, what? They also had an atheist / Satanist, prostitute, and also a sick demon prayer on day of 1 of RNC. Very disciplined. Interesting. I hadn't heard that yet, Isaac. You know, I don't think it's accurate to say that Vance was a never Trumper in 2016. Here's a little bit of a confessional on the part of yours truly. I did not support Trump in the 2016 primary. In 2016, Georgia voted very, very early in that primary, and I was not yet convinced that Trump was for real. And I backed Ben Carson. And I still wish I voted for Ben Carson in the Georgia primary. And I still wish America was the type of country that deserved to be led by a man like Dr. Ben Carson. He is a gentleman and a gentle man. It seems like from the outside. I've never met him from the outside, but I wish we were the type of country who could be governed by a man like Ben Carson. I have since decided we are not. He's too kind. He's too fair-minded. He's too refined in his sentiments and his feelings and his he's too fair-minded. We need, you know, we need to be governed by a Trump, and I know that now. I did not know that in 2016, and I did not vote for Trump in the 2016 primary. So I can't really. And what I've read about what Vance said about Trump in the 2016 primary is not like, oh, he's the worst ever. He said something along the lines of, I can't make up my mind about Trump. He's either going to be an irritant, an ineffectual, like irritation we can ignore, or he's going to be America's Hitler, is what he said. No one saw 2016 coming. No, I shouldn't say no one. Very few people saw 2016 coming. I did not see Trump being who Trump turned out to be. So I'm not going to hold that against Vance per se. Because it was just, I mean, think back to what you know about Donald Trump prior to 2016. He was an elite. He was a New York business elite who had risen to the top of the entertainment world, who went on the Howard Stern show all the time. This is not one of our people, you know. This guy is not our natural ally. We thought. And he turned out to be the best thing since. A lot of people disagree with what I'm about to say. I liked Reagan. I think Reagan got the big issue of his time right. Reagan recognized communism and the Soviet Union as the threat it was, and maybe the Soviet Union was its threat had lessened. Maybe it was on the decline, but he recognized it as the threat it was, and he marshaled all of his resources towards fighting communism in the Soviet Union, and he put everything secondary to that. with the benefit of hindsight, we can question whether the Soviet Union was really the threat it claimed to be, if it wasn't already. Yeah, Tim, we'll touch that here in just a second. Uh, the Israelis bombed the Houthis. Uh, and so he compromised everything in the fight against communism. And like what I was about to say was, we can argue with the benefit of hindsight whether the Soviet Union was the threat they claimed to be. But at the time, and I was young, the wall fell in '89. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989. So I would have been 14 when the wall fell. But I remember it. And I remember doing nuclear bomb drills. And my elementary school had a nuclear fallout shelter in the basement, a nuclear attack drills. Yeah. And so it might be easy now with the the distance of 30 years or whatever it's been now, to say, well, clearly they were already collapsing, but we didn't really know that at the time. It was a closed off society bent to the propaganda war of convincing the West that they were going to overthrow us, that they were winning, and there were people who believed it. And I remember having, even as young as I was, it was stupid because we didn't know what the hell we were talking about. I remember having debates with people my age about whether or not the Soviet military could beat the American military. Cattywampus is here. So giving the information we had at the time, making the fight against communism the centerpiece of your administration is not the worst thing ever. Now, he compromised on a bunch of stuff. He did the amnesty for the illegals. He was not as strong on the pro-life issues, or he probably wasn't very strong on pro-life at all. I think that was just a nod to the base. And then, of course, we also forget that the Democrats had I think it was a supermajority in the House of Representatives during his presidency that at that point had already lasted something like 30 years. The Democrats owned the House of Representatives, like lock, stock, and every barrel smoking. Tip O'Neill had the power and influence domestically to rival that of the president. It was a very, very different time in our nation's history for those of you who weren't alive at the time. It was also a much more naive time. We just didn't know who the left was yet. And I know that sounds insane to say. I know when I say that, you like sneer at me. But we didn't. There was still Mark Beasley is talking about the school loudspeaker. This is a nuclear bombing drill. Crawl under. I don't know why crawling under they would have us go out in the hallway. And I think we did both. Anyway, at one point we would go out in the hallway with a book to hold over our heads. And at one point we were crawling under the desks. It sounds crazy to say we didn't know who the left was yet. But it was such a... If you had been alive I remember the early 80s. I turned 10 in 85, and I kind of remember that whole period. Oh yeah, John Doe. But that bothers me a little bit because, I'm a Marine, and I've always considered us to be too extreme and too sort of like hard-edged to experience electoral success. It almost bothers me a little bit that a Marine could be vice president, because it's like, that's not who we are. We're Smedley Butler, for crying out loud. But at the time there was just this idea that the lefties is just this tiny little minority, and they're so weird and they're so crazy, and this is a fad. This isn't going to last, and we just got to be able to to break through the media noise and get to the regular people, and it'll all be fine. And and there was just no concept. Uh, hey, Savage Air Guns is here. Uh, that people could be this bizarre. You know what? Let's talk about this. Here's what we'll talk about. I think we should abandon the title of conservative and conservatism. Because here's why. First off, no one can define it because it does not have a set definition. Conservatives are always about preserving the previous power structure. That's really what they're preserving. Because if you would ask, let's just go to the French Revolution. If you would ask a Jacobin who was a conservative, they would tell you the Girondins were conservatives. But if you ask the Girondins who were conservatives, they would tell you it was the liberal royalists or whatever, I can't remember, whoever the hell it was. You know, the conservative is always the party that's trying to keep the status quo in place. And the status quo now, men, there's no other way around. The status quo is a form of liberalism that we're not okay with. You know, the status quo is tyrannical police state, corrupted legal system, immoral social, immoral social morals. That's the reason why there's only 26 of you here. Rampant immorality, injustice, inequality. When I say inequality, I don't mean it from the standpoint of the way the left says it. I mean inequality in that poor working people are not able to accrue wealth. We are, but it's very, very difficult. So we're not trying to conserve the existing power structures. We don't want to keep the status quo. The best you can say about the status quo would be Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan or any of these failed assholes. We don't want that. We don't want to conserve what is. What is what has given way to what's coming. We don't want to conserve. We are revolutionaries. We are radicals. You could say we are radical reactionaries. Those of us who want to restore a patriarchal Christian system with limited government and the whole 9 yards, all the things that we would use to describe conservatism, we're not conserving. We're actually radical reactionaries. It's revolutionary. So to call ourselves conservatives is not accurate, because conservatives are liberal Republicans and center Democrats. These are the people who've been nominally in charge for the last 20 years. Those are the conservatives. The Mitt Romneys are the conservatives. The Nancy Pelosi, because Nancy Pelosi is a radical, crazy person, but she wants to conserve the existing power structure the way it is. It's been very good to her, and she wants to be the radical in San Francisco, and she understands that if she makes her San Francisco radicalism normal, she won't be the left coast radical anymore. They'll move past her just the way the Jacobins moved past the Girondins, and she won't be. She knows for her to be a radical, there has to be a more conservative. Here I go. I'm going to fall into it. Oh yeah. We can still say conservative. A more conservative center that she is in contrast to. Bill and Hillary Clinton are conservatives. Barack Obama is a conservative because they want to conserve the existing power structure. They want to keep the status quo, and we don't want to conserve what is. Now, and I think this is part of. There's lots of reasons why we've been failing for so long, but I think this is part of why, because we have not accurately identified our goals and plans and our desires and our missions. When we say that, well, we're conservatives, What we're saying is we want things to stay the way they are right now. And the way things are right now is terrible. If things never progressed another step, the way things are right now would be absolutely unacceptable. We do not want to conserve. We want to be radical, reactionary, revolutionaries. The triple R's, the radical reactionaries. I don't know what you want to call it, but I think we need to stop saying that we're conservatives. We're not conservatives. Our words are powerful. Words have meanings. I'm not one of these name it, claim it people. I'm not telling, speak it into existence, sister. But words are powerful. Words do have meanings, and we should use accurate words to describe what we mean. And when we call ourselves conservatives, we are not being accurate about our goals or our aims. We're Kinetic is having a hell of a time with the autocorrect here. We're not that. We're reactionary, radical reactionaries. We need better terminology, and we need to use that terminology, and we need to not let people who are against us use these nebulous words like conservative. I mean, here's the crazy thing. In a communist country, socialists are conservative. Think about this. Conservative is always describing itself in relation to something else. Hot and cold are the same way. Hot and cold don't tell you what temperature things are. Something's hot if in relation to whatever something else that doesn't have as much heat in it. And we need terminology that describes us accurately. It describes our principles, because our principles are what's important. It's the ideas we care about. We don't care about keeping Paul Ryan in power. Not that Paul Ryan's been in power for a very long time. We don't care about keeping Mitt Romney in power. We don't care about winning elections in Manhattan. We care about principles that affect our lives, where we live, and our families, and we need to be vocalizing that, because as I move about my blue collar world and I talk to men who are not involved in politics or interested in politics, and I'll get mad about that sometimes, but why would they be? Why would they be? Because and I don't know if Palmetto Paratrooper's here, if he'll be here later or whatever. I think he falls into this category a little bit. They'll talk about the Uni-party. Doesn't matter. Both parties are the same. The same thing's going to happen no matter what I do. So why should I participate in this farce? I think Cattywampus, he's still in here. I think he has a similar view, and he was like, I can't blame these men for saying this, because Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney will tell you they're conservatives. And then if I come around and say, oh yeah, let's all be vote conservative, and look at these assholes who say they're conservative. Okay, so we got to stop using that terminology. Isaac is right. Reactionary is not a good one. It does have bad connotations. It does the same thing as conservative. It just isn't defining itself in relation to something else. There you go, Tim. Now we just need a word that encapsulates that. Used to be good God-fearing. I'm a good God-fearing American. And that's what good God-fearing American meant. And everything else had to fall underneath the, that umbrella of good God-fearing American. Yeah, that's the problem with revolutionary. And see, this is the George Orwell 1984 part, where he was talking about how the tyrants controlled the language, so it became impossible to communicate ideas. And we're there. They have so corrupted the language that it is becoming impossible to clearly communicate ideas. The Anglo-Protestant Values Party. The thing is, I mean, I'm a proud Anglo-Saxon. I think we're pretty cool people. But my God, I'm fine with the Chinese Christian. If Cubans vote great, you know, some of these Venezuelans are coming over and voting great. Uh, I don't mind if your culture is flavored differently as long as you worship the God I worship. If you value property rights, if you value, personal autonomy, if you're not going to try to take my guns, if I don't have to worry about you raping my daughters and all the foolishness that comes with so much of this shit. Uh, I don't know if y'all saw the news that there's this town in the United Kingdom called Leeds, which has become heavily immigrant, and they've got this one community of Pakistanis. It's a Pakistani community, and some government social workers went and removed 4 children from a family. Now, normally, I hate that, and anytime I hear the government taking children from a family, I get angry because it's almost always for some bullshit. But you got to remember, this is the United Kingdom, and this is a Pakistani family, and for the government to get involved with the immigrant community over there in a negative way, that means the immigrant had to do something horrific. Uh, Remember, they ignored grooming gangs for decades because they were so scared of insulting the immigrant community, the Pakistani immigrant community. So whatever was happening to these 4 kids was awful, uh, most likely. For all we know, it was a Pakistani Christian family, but probably not, because then the whole community rioted and burned buses and flipped over cop cars. And last I heard, they're still on the streets burning shit down. Uh, I don't want that. Uh, I don't want that. We've got our own crazies. We've got our own. I've been dealing with an alleged with a Christian family lately where the father has just made ridiculously bad choices. Uh, we've got our own crazies. We don't need to import their crazies. But yeah, no, I would ship every blonde-haired, blue-eyed atheist to France or Austria, depending on which one you think is more responsible for secular atheism. Not that there is any other kind of atheism, but you know what I mean. And I would give every Arab Christian the right to come here as long as they can support themselves. Uh, I really have become a Christian nationalist in my old age. Where were we at when I went off on that tangent? Oh, it is a Uni-party. The I've never seen that movie Thelma and Louise, but I'm sure you've heard about it. It's this crazy feminist movie where these women go nuts because their husbands are mean or something. I don't know. But whatever happens, it justifies them killing a bunch of men. And at the end of the movie, Thelma and Louise realize there's no escape, and they'll never be taken alive, and they drive a car off a cliff. Classic car. Uh, oh, Les, we'll talk about Ireland here in just a second. Um, and the last part of the movie is Thelma and Louise driving this beautiful classic convertible off a cliff. Well, the Republicans and the Democrats, the conservatives and the liberals, are Thelma and Louise. Thelma's driving. I think it was Thelma who was driving. Might have been Louise. I don't know. One of them's driving, uh, and but they're both gone off the cliff. Now, the one is in the passenger seat, pumping the phantom brake, and the other one's in the driver's seat, with the pedal to the metal, but they're both going in the same direction at the same rate of speed. The car is over the cliff. Now, I say all that And in a few weeks, I'm about to put out a video begging people to go vote Republican. Uh, we won't have to get into it all right now. So there is a hypocrisy. Oh, Tim, that was rough, brother. It was a Thunderbird, no big loss. Ouch! As a dyed-in-the-wool Ford man and a Thunderbird, I want to say I like certain years of the Thunderbird. Obviously, the original Thunderbird was beautiful. The years when the Thunderbird and the Cougar were on the same. Hey, Palmetto Paratrooper, we literally just spoke your name. 10 minutes ago, we said something about Palmetto Paratrooper, and here you are. I like Thunderbirds. I think they're pretty cars. When I was in high school, they had brought back a Thunderbird that was a really kind of a good-looking car for the time. And they had sent it over to the speed shop, and they had made it a Super Coupe. They had a Thunderbird Super Coupe. Yeah, actually, I was talking about our disagreements about voting, and about the parts about it you're right on. And the Thunderbird Super Coupe, this would have been. Oh, Tim, I like the Falcon much better. Especially the two-door Falcon. That is a vastly underappreciated car. A 66 Ford Thunderbird convertible is what they drove off the cliff in that movie. But that early 90s, I said you were right in your observations, not your conclusions, Palmetto. Your observations are correct, your conclusions are incorrect. And that's why we're talking about Thelma and Louise and Thunderbirds. Because I was saying that the Republicans and the Democrats are Thelma and Louise. They're both in the convertible. They're both over the cliff. One of them's got their foot on the gas. The other one's got their foot on the phantom brake. But they're both going the same place at the same rate of speed. Hold on a second. Someone just said something. Sharon loves the 65 Falcon. Do you agree Ron Paul would have been an ideal president? The words like silent raindrops fell. Isn't that the lyrics from The Sound of Silence, Boo? And the words that they spoke like silent raindrops fell. Yeah. Okay, let's deal with this Ron Paul thing here for just a second. Would Ron Paul have been an ideal president? I have a problem with libertarianism. And I have a friend, a man I admire greatly and who has influenced me greatly and who I respect as sort of a mentor type. Maybe not a mentor because he doesn't have that kind of time to put into me. And honestly, I might be past that place in my life. Younger men would be more deserving of that. But a man who I aspire to be more like. So none of this is criticism. But he's a libertarian, kind of high up in the Libertarian Party. My problem with libertarianism is that it has ingested the same lie that liberalism has. The foundational principle of almost all ideologies, the hinge on which all of them swing to one side or the other, is whether or not, so I like that part about screw the Fed. And I like states' rights. But the foundational idea in almost every philosophy of men is the idea of original sin. Does an idea incorporate the reality, the fact, the truth, that inside of us there is something that drags us towards destruction? That there's a part of us that longs for the divine, that longs to achieve and succeed and soar, but there's something in us that drags us toward destruction. The Greeks called it hubris. This is why, even though the Greeks had nothing to do with Christianity, a lot of Western philosophers will say that the Greeks belong to a Western tradition, that the modern Western world was founded in Athens and Jerusalem. That whole Judeo-Christian thing, because obviously Christianity inherits the idea of original sin. From the Jews, even though modern Jews reject it. Greeks had a very similar concept of the idea of hubris, and so you get a Western style of thought that says people have to be freed to pursue that aspirational call to the divine, that draw to be better and be more than we are, but it also has to guard against that drive to degradation and destruction. That's why we talk about checks and balances and sticks and carrots and enough to keep an honest man honest type stuff, where yes, you have to have a system that allows for excellence and achievement, but you also have to have a system that punishes evil. What's the right word? Whatever. This is why people don't understand sometimes why Islam gets along so well with leftists. Islam doesn't believe in original sin. Islam believes that people are born capable of moral perfection. Liberals believe that people are born capable of moral perfection. This is what separates us from them. And everyone who believes that people are capable of moral perfection are going to fall on one side of most issues, and everyone who believes that people have something in us that drags us down are going to fall to the other side. Something intrinsic to us. Libertarians believe in a form of humanism. Humanism say that people are at worst morally neutral and will make morally, what do they say? Anyway, libertarians fall into this camp where they think people are at least morally neutral, and that we will always respond to market incentives in a positive way if the market incentives are not corrupted. Okay, well that's not true. You can have everything perfect and people will still make morally bad, destructive choices, sometimes just because they fucking want to. We are not morally neutral creatures. We're not morally perfectible creatures. We do have what we would call a sin nature, an original sin. There is something in our souls that, if not dealt with and constantly worked against, will drag us down into degradation and destruction. Libertarianism and libertarians do not account for that. Because they say that, oh no, all you have to do is free the market, and if you free the market, then everyone will act in a morally, they wouldn't use the term moral, this is my term. They would say in an economic, we're just going to say moral because I'm not sure what term they would use. But they would say, left to itself, the market is perfect, and everyone will behave in the correct manner. They will achieve, because if you behave in the correct manner, that's moral perfection. That people will achieve moral perfection in an unmanipulated market. In a free market, everyone or enough people will act in such a way that perfection can be achieved. Ron Paul is a libertarian, and he believes some version of what I just described, although I garbled it beyond belief. This is why I can never be a libertarian. The market is not perfect because people aren't perfect, and just because you have a market that is completely free and unmanipulated does not mean that the people functioning in that market are going to do the right thing. Uh, so now, that's my problem with libertarianism writ large. Uh, and so when libertarians say, well, no, prostitution should be legal and abortion should be legal, and they talk about all these things that that are moral questions, and they tell you, no, the market will fix that, the market will solve that, the market will adjust for that, and it won't, it can't, because you cannot account for the darkness that lurks in men's souls and women's souls, people's souls, human souls. Hey, William Stanley's here. How you doing, William? It's good to see you, brother. William is one of our oldest friends, subscribers. Yeah, he goes way, way back. William, I don't know. We haven't seen you in a while. Did you know that David Burden and shucks, I don't want to use his real name, and I don't remember his screen name. Uh, Jimmy D died. They both died within about a year of each other. I don't know if you remember them or not, but you guys were kind of the three amigos in my memory. You were the three I interacted with the most in the early days. Now, where does Ron Paul fall into that mix? I don't know. I don't know Ron Paul well enough. I used to listen to a podcast that would feature him once a week. They would have like a 5 to 10 minute blurb from Ron Paul. I love what he has to say about the Fed. The Federal Reserve, is one of the great evils of the modern world. The great liberal project to overthrow our godly republic was funded by the Federal Reserve. And without the Federal Reserve, we would be a completely different country. And without the I would go so far as to say, without the Federal Reserve, that the entire history of the last 100, what was it, 1912, the Federal Reserve was founded? Someone can help me out with that. I think the Federal Reserve, it was the Federal Reserve Act of 1912 or 1913 or whatever. Yeah, without all that money. Hey, Patrick E, how you doing, sir? How's the great frozen north doing? Without all that money, they could not have financed any of this shit. World War I was going to happen no matter what. But it probably couldn't have gone on the scale it did. World War II, though, might not have been able to happen without the Federal Reserve. I don't know how it could have, because they had to print all that money, and you couldn't print our money prior to the Federal Reserve. Fractional reserve banking, it's not frozen. Dang, it was 101. Whoa, that is hot. You couldn't print gold. You can't print gold. Say what you want about gold, and I understand some of the criticisms. Here's the dirty little secret about gold and silver, and I'm a huge silver bug. I'd be a gold bug, I just can't afford it. It is a fiat currency underneath. Because what makes gold valuable? Well, the fact that we value it, If we didn't value it, it wouldn't have value. And that's every currency, That's why tobacco was a currency, and seashells were currencies, and all the silly things that cross the history that have been currencies. Federal Reserve was founded December 23rd, 1913. That was the Canadian, man. You got to step up your game. If this Canadian can tell us when our Federal Reserve, son of a gun. What has happened to the flower of American masculinity? You men are the flower of American masculinity. The 30 of you men watching this live stream right now are the best this nation has to offer. And this damn Canadian came in here and schooled us on our history. That is unsatisfactory, gentlemen. That is unsatisfactory. Of course, I didn't know that either, so. Gold doesn't have very many uses outside of being shiny and pretty, which is a use, by the way. I got a lot of mileage out of being shiny and pretty when I was a younger man. That's a joke. But there's been times like when the West kind of met the Chinese again. We smell it, brother. It's got nothing with Canada. When the USA farts, we smell it. And 98XJ says he knew it was 1913. When the West kind of came in contact with China again in the modern era, the Chinese greatly valued silver. They valued silver more than gold. And there's a few short years there where I think it was the Dutch, but somebody just made a shit ton of money taking silver to China and selling it to them for gold. And because the Chinese valued silver more than they valued gold. So yes, underneath it all, precious metals are a fiat currency. Now I think that the best fiat currency, because they're limited, and that's what our elites hate about them. They're not limited. Yeah, they're limited. They don't want limits put on them. They want to control the money. They want to be able to spend the money before the inflation hits. That's why fractional reserve banking is so evil, and why the money printing is so bad. Because the rich people get the new money first when it's still worth more, and then they spend it before it inflates, and then the rest of us are getting robbed at 6 to 7% a year. And of course, the other criticism of gold and silver is that it doesn't have interest. It just sits there. It does nothing. It's a pet rock. That's what Warren Buffett says. But now, I'm not smart enough to be able to run these numbers, Mr. Buffett. But I know in 1933, an ounce of gold was worth $33. Yeah, it was $33. It was like $33.50 or whatever it was. It was less than 34, more than $33 an ounce for gold in the early 1930s. I think it was 32, 33. Our Canadian friend could probably tell us this one too. Today, an ounce of gold is worth $2,400. So my question is, in 1932 or 1933 or whatever it was, if you invested your let's just say $35 to make it easy. If you invested your $35 in some, indexed fund of whatever the markets were, and let it sit, would that $33 today be worth $2,400? I don't know. I don't know how to find out. I'm sure there's some way to find out. My guess is that even with the interest that your investments in things like the stock market and bonds and all these crazy shit they make up. Oh yeah, Mark. Yeah, it was $600 an ounce not that long ago. If you compare what that money would have done in the markets over all this time to what that gold is worth today, I bet you it's not going to be very, very different. I bet you that all of your interest and all of your appreciation and all this shit, I just don't know. Compound interest is a powerful, powerful, powerful thing, and it really kicks in on the tail end there. So I could be completely wrong on this, but I'd be willing to bet you that okay, Patrick, here's the nut going again. From Google, value of $50 from 1933. Come on. The value of $50 from 1933 to 2024. $50 in 1933 is equivalent to purchasing power of about $1,200 today. But, you know, there would have been dividends on those stocks this whole time. There might have been appreciation. You know, what would the investment have looked like now? Oh, Cattywampus says it was $35 in 1934. It was, the price was set. You know, the dollar was pegged to the gold. Yeah, we were using mostly paper money at the time, but you could take your paper money to a bank and exchange it for a pretty. I'm not sure if this was every bank, but I know there was mechanisms in place where you could take your paper money somewhere, and I think it was banks, and give them your paper money and get gold in return. And of course, all coins were silver anyway. So all you'd have to do is turn your paper money into coins and you'd have silver. I'm sorry, not all coins. Dimes, quarters, 50-cent pieces, and dollars. Were silver. Also, half dimes. I just learned this recently. Yo, we all know what a nickel is, right? 5-cent piece. Well, there used to be a 5-cent piece called a half dime. And why wouldn't they call a half dime a nickel? Because it was 5 cents after all. It had the same value. But a half dime was actually silver. So it was half of a silver dime. You know, nickels are called nickel because they're made out of the metal nickel. I know this, most of you are probably rolling your eyes at me. I didn't realize it. Yeah, the inflation calculator, Cattywampus. But what would the investment have been? You know, had you invested, had you invested $35 in gold in 1934, and if I'd invested $35 in the stock market in 1934, who has more money today? Would that $35 have turned into $2,400 by today? What was a bit made of? Actually, Tim, so the thing with the bits, 2 bits and 3 bits, dates back to, it has its same basis in the pieces of 8 thing. Yeah, Connect, but with like just an indexed fund, just like a general, like a fund or an investment that mirrored the market. Pieces of 8 were called pieces of 8 because to make change back in the old days, these are like the pirate days, they would get a Spanish dollar, Spanish silver dollar, and they would cut it in pieces, literally make little wedges out of it, like a pizza, chop it, and those would be, and they'd get 8 pieces, and they'd call it pieces of 8. Well, bits are the same thing. Bits are a 50-cent piece. So 2 bits is $1. I think I've got that right. Some kind of same. The principle's the same. I might have the details wrong. 2 bits might be 50 cents, but I think 2 bits is $1. Well, we'll let the Canadian loose on that one. Isaac is usually our fact checker, but he's been eerily silent. Eerily silent. Oh man, I would show you, but I'd have to get up. I'm a silver bug, and I sold a car, an old car we had, and I got $1,500 for this old car, which never happens. I never have that kind of money laying around, and I decided I wanted to set 2 bits is 25 cents. Thank you, 10 Tigers. So it's 8 bits to be $1. Yeah, 8 bits would be, I'm sorry, yeah, 8 bits then to be anyway. Yeah, Mark, I'm sure I got that wrong. But it was 2 bits is 25 cents. Yeah, 2 bits is 25 cents because you would cut up a silver dollar into eighth. and two of those eighths would be 25 cents. You know, uh, two of those bits would be uh, anyway. So I have $1,500 that I decided, because I sold an old car, I decided that I wanted that money to be set aside for car repairs, because car repairs are the bane of my existence. I mean, this one of the major stressors in my entire life is automobiles, uh, and having a reliable vehicle that's safe, that I can, you know, put this giant family of mine in, and it's just a constant struggle. And so I've got, you know, for the first time in my life, I've got a decent, reliable vehicle, and I had $1,500, and I wanted that $1,500 to be set aside for vehicle repairs. But money just flows through my fingers. I can't hold on to cash. It just goes. So I said, I'm putting it in silver, right? I don't care. You know, if I have to turn it around and cash out tomorrow because the transmission goes out on this van, I don't care if I lose my premium, because I've kept the majority of it, you know? So I went down and bought 4 10-ounce bars. I bought 40 ounces of silver at one shot. And they is pretty. 2 of them are angle hard bars. If you know anything about silver, one of the first things you learn, that I just learned not that long ago, because I'm a pretty new convert to silver, is that angle hard was an old mint. It's out of business now, but it's kind of like the most famous, most sought after mint. All their bars are serialized. They had a really good reputation, and they're not making anymore. So angle hard bars, angle hard silver, period, because they didn't just make bars, but I think they primarily made bars, are their bars are what they're known for. I haven't seen an angle hard coin, now that I think about it. I don't know if there are any. They're sought after. They have a little bit of a premium. Whoa, okay, all right. Cattywampus just shot my theory in the head. Whoa. Damn. So Cattywampus says, by the way, good research, Cattywampus, that if you invested $35 in the S&P 500 in 1934, it would be worth $425,000 today. So, I am still a precious metals guy. However, Warren Buffett has a point. Oh, Steve Hall has a few 1-ounce angle hard rounds. All right, that's awesome. That's good to know that they're out there. But I got 2 10-ounce angle hard bars, and they are pretty. One has just a little bit of toning to it. I'm so tempted to go get these bars and show them to you. Jacques says, if you want to talk about investing, you should start in 1975, because this is when it became legal to own gold again. This is true, Jacques. I can't remember what year it was Roosevelt confiscated the gold, but our thought experiment is actually not possible, because it was not legal to own an ounce of gold. I think it was 1930. Yeah, 1933 is when they confiscated the gold. So people really like pre-1933 gold. So it actually was not legal to own an ounce of gold in 1934. So the entire thought experiment is a little bit of a falsehood. But still, the principle remains. As much as I am into precious metals, and I think there's even a biblical principle involved. It might be Proverbs or something, where it says, invest in like 7 different things, because you know not what may come. Ah, damn it, Les. The Braves lost to the Cardinals 9-5. Maui Doug is here. Doug, how you doing, sir? Good to hear from you. I was just looking through your email, the emails you'd sent me earlier. Uh, didn't get a chance to read any of them, but I was looking through the subject lines of them at least. Uh, Luke was a Chipper Jones fan growing up. Uh, Jesse says, I wish I was in the position to buy precious metals. I'm still investing in physical items yet, but almost there. Jesse, I said the same thing for 20 years. You're smarter than me. Start now, because you can go and buy a silver dime. A silver dime is less than $3 if you buy a Roosevelt dime. And if you went and bought a silver dime every week for, let's just say $3 to make it easy. And that's going to be a Mercury, by the way. If you're paying $3 for a dime, you're getting a Mercury head dime, which isn't a Mercury head dime at all. It's actually Wing of Liberty. It was never supposed to be Mercury. People just thought it was Mercury because of the little funny wings on the hat. Well, yeah. Les remembers when they played the Blue Jays in the World Series. The 90s were an exhilarating and frustrating time to be a Braves fan. Kind of like the 20 teens. So if you go and buy one dime a week, in 14 weeks you will have an ounce of silver. Every $1.40 worth of old American silver coins is equal to an ounce of silver, basically, more or less. So you can start investing in precious metals right now. You've just got to find a coin shop near you and go and buy a dime. You know what? Maybe you can afford to buy a quarter. A silver quarter right now is about $5. Yeah, it's 90% silver. A 50-cent piece is about $11. You can buy silver dollars for around $30. Even less than that if you buy peace dollars. The way I do it, now I'm in a little bit of a unique situation, but not too unique. Almost anyone could do this. I drive around Atlanta a lot for my job. Not a lot. I mean, I drive around Atlanta 4 days a week. I'll never do less than 5 stops a day, and sometimes I'll do 11 stops, 12 stops a day, although that's rare. So I spend a lot of time driving around Atlanta, and I spend a lot of time crawling around in basements and attics, among other things. So a silver dollar kinetic is 3/4 of an ounce. I really like Morgans and peace dollars. Now I split all my money between constitutional and bullion. I try to be equal in both, but I really think Morgan dollars and peace dollars, Morgan dollars a little bit more than peace dollars, are kind of, if you can only really focus on one thing, that's the thing to focus on, because it is essentially close to an ounce. It's 3/4 of an ounce. It's actually less right now than an ounce, a regular bullion ounce. And it's got numismatic value and scarcity. These are 100-year-old coins. They're not minting any more of them. They can mint buffalo rounds all day long. Never ever going to be another, 1921 Morgan. Cattywampus is puncturing my theories even more. So S&P 500, if you put $160 in 1975, I'm assuming that was the price of an ounce of gold, is why he used that number. You can tell me if I'm mistaken, Cattywampus. Would be $45,000 today. Oh yeah, no, he says the average for gold price in 1975 was $160. So yeah, you would be better off had you put that money in the stock market than had you put it in gold. So that's a little sobering. But, like I said, you shouldn't be in all of one thing. I'm in all of one thing because I just recently started being in anything. And this was the thing I could get started in a little bit at a time, which is what I was telling Jesse Wellnitz. Oh, and so when I go about my day, yeah, silver dollars are the original fidget spinners. When I go about my day driving around Atlanta and crawling around these houses, I'm always got my eye out for, first off, trash on the curb. People are, you would not believe what people throw out. But I'm really looking for bathroom fixtures and plumbing fixtures. So, I want to see kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, anything plumbing related. I'm going to stop and I'm going to look over that stuff and see if it's brass. And if it's brass, I'm snagging it. And of course, there's copper too that in some of those things, but brass is really what I'm looking for. All right, then then I'm always on the lookout for any kind of metal appliances. If I see appliances, I will stop. And if I have the time, if I'm really stressed for time, I won't. But if people put appliances out on the side of the road, I stop and snag the appliances. And then when I'm crawling around underneath these houses, I'm always looking for. I'll tell you why in just a second. Kinetic, why brass? Uh, I'm always looking for scraps that electricians and plumbers and heat and air guys leave behind. Uh, and then I'm also looking for old, disconnected telephone wire on these old houses. These are all rental houses, so they don't, they maintain them, but no one is like, renters come, renters go, and so like there's old telephone wire on these houses that's been there for, you know, it's all defunct telephone wire. I'm not stripping good wires out of these houses, but I'll get the old telephone wires. I'll look for the coax. Now most coax cable is not copper. But there's types of coax cable that is copper, and I'm looking for old, defunct, unused coax cable that's copper. Uh, and I'll take all this stuff in. Now, why brass? Brass kinetic. Brass is really, really heavy, and brass is mostly copper. And so you will get, depending on if it's clean brass and where you go. Sometimes I get. We're losing some people. Mark and Boo Radley are leaving us. Gentlemen, we appreciate you being with us. Thank you. It's good to see you guys. I'll get $2.50 a pound for brass sometimes. And if you ever pick up a brass faucet, and frequently faucets, even the silver ones, are just chrome plated brass. And it'll be 3 or 4 pounds of brass in an old faucet that's been thrown out on the side of the road. And all you gotta do is unscrew it, take off the little bit of plastic that's on there. It takes 2 minutes once you know what you're doing, and throw it in a bucket in the back of the truck. Just leave the bucket in the back of the truck. And every couple of weeks, I go down to the scrapyard, and I'll have $150, $160. Luke B is home alone. His wife is working an extra shift, and the kids are at grandma's. So peaceful. And I'll have $150 worth of this scrap metal I've picked up off the side of the road. Brass, different types of copper. I get aluminum when I see it, but I don't go out of my way for aluminum because it's so light. It's just not, it's so hard to have any kind of, and then you got to clean it, and you'll clean a piece of cast aluminum. It's worth 40 cents a pound. But I mean, you've got to, it takes so much aluminum to make a pound, it's ridiculous. So I only go for aluminum if it's in my way, pretty much. And so in about 2 years, a little less than 2 years. Okay, so actually, DPFX 99999, washing machine and dryer motors used to have a lot of copper in them. They have actually started using a copper-coated aluminum winding on those motors in the last few years. And so now appliance motors do not bring, extruded aluminum, extruded aluminum and cast aluminum bring the best. But it's still, cast aluminum is like 40 cents a pound, and extruded is like 45 cents a pound or whatever. So appliance motors will still bring about 25 cents a pound, but they don't do as well as you're right. You scratch the wire just to make sure. They don't do as well as other electric motors that do have uh, copper windings. And the difference, the reason why they'll use so if it's a small, if it's a motor where size is important and they have to try to keep the motor compact, they'll use copper because for some reason copper windings can be smaller than aluminum windings. I don't know why. But if it's something where it doesn't really matter how big the motor is, or if they're at least within reason, obviously, then they'll use aluminum windings now, copper plated aluminum windings. So you gotta. I've kind of quit pulling motors anymore, at least off of appliances, because at 25 cents a pound, it's not really worth my time to pull the motors off. I do snip the power cords off though, and throw those in a pile, and I don't strip them. They bring $1 a pound, and if you strip them, they don't bring a whole lot more because they're a real small gauge copper wire. So you're doing a ton more work and you're not getting any more money. You just cut the ends off and you get $1 a pound for the cord. And that's why I take those telephone wires too, because I get $1 a pound for those telephone wires. And I just got to make sure there's no staples on them, because they staple them to the siding a lot of times. And that's actually probably my most consistent moneymaker. Tim says I've done a fair amount of scrapping, not so much the last 3 years, but yeah, at least once a year I take a load in the occasional junk car. Yeah, I save all the metal I can. I save all the metal I can. I have an extensive junk pile that I'm actually I'm about to do a big load, because I just throw all my steel in a pile, and every once in a while I'll go borrow my father-in-law's dump truck and just have a big scrap run and take everything down all at once. Because steel's only worth about 5.5 cents a pound up here. I could get 10 cents a pound closer to Atlanta, but I don't live close to Atlanta. I work there, but I have to commute about an hour and a half one way. And the best scrap yards where you get the best prices are actually over on the northwest side of the city, and that's like 2 hours away from me. So it's obviously not worth it to run down there for 10 cents a pound. But that's where I take my brass, because the scrap yards local to me for some reason don't pay well for brass. I don't know why, but I found some scrap yards down around Marietta, like I said, about 2 hours away, that do really well for brass. All right, Jesse, I found this channel when I first bought land in 2021. I started off sleeping in the back of my truck with a cat. Now I've moved up to a camper with a screen deck. 0 debt so far. I'm pumped. Yeah, Jesse, don't worry about the silver. You're doing great, brother. You're doing great. That's pretty impressive. You'll have to tell us how you did that one day. Yeah, it pays to have a truck. So that's how I get my silver. I don't take any money out of the family budget to buy silver usually. If someone wants to buy me a present and they ask me what I want, I'll tell them, hey, I want silver. And then I tell them where to go. Because again, if they wanted to spend $3 on my birthday, they could do it and get me a silver dime. Or if they wanted to buy me a $25 gift, they could do it and get me well, $25 you wouldn't get a silver dollar right now, but $30 you get a silver dollar. All right, Luke B. Now you're trying to get me distracted. What is this? Is this? You bother with steel? Yeah, I do steel, but like I said, I don't go out of my way to get. It's like, if I can pick it up and put it in the bed of the truck, I do it, and then when I get home, I throw it on the pile. Okay, so Kinetic is going with a 14.5-inch barrel for his Minuteman weapon, and then he's going to pin and weld on a muzzle device to get it up to the legal minimum length of 16 inches. So here's my question, Kinetic. Are you ready? Why? Why? Oh, Luke B is saying this. Okay, I'm sorry. So you still are going to have a 16-inch barrel, but all you've given up is 2 inches of velocity. Remember, that powder is still burning at 14 and a half inches. If you give up those 2 inches of barrel, that's 2 inches of travel where that powder's not burning. Now, the skeptic will tell you, well, that's only going to be, anywhere from 50 to 100 feet per second. But 50 to 100 feet per second on a bullet, where I'm assuming we're talking about 5.56, a bullet that is completely dependent on velocity to be effective, is a big deal. I'm sorry. Anything that gives you up velocity but does not buy you any advantage. There is no advantage to a 14 and a half inch barrel with a 2-inch muzzle device than there is with a 16-inch barrel with a bird cage. Now, you just said that a bird cage kicks the barrel length out to 17.2 inches. That would surprise me. But I mean, that's obviously you did your research, and I trust you. But look, my job in the Marine Corps was tow gunner. I fired the tow missile. It was an infantry MOS. I'm an infantry guy. I'm an 03, but I spent most of my time in a Humvee with, we had a missile on top. And so the missile was heavy enough that you had to have the truck. And we had the M16A2s. So that's the 20-inch barrel, fixed buttstock. I think it's 33 inches from tip to tip. And so we would do these drills where we would have that M16A2 in the brackets. If you've ever been in a Humvee, you're right when you open the door. When you're sitting in the driver's seat, your rifle would be in a bracket just to the left of the steering wheel. Damn it. And we would do these drills where we would grab the butt stock was on the ground, the muzzle was pointed up, and like if you were driving like this, that rifle would be like right here. And we would do these drills where we would grab the rifle, deploy the rifle out the window, full M16A2, 20-inch barrel, fixed buttstock, seated in a Humvee. Yeah, I do, Maui. I like a good traditional cigar. And there was never a problem. That was as cramped of a position as you could really, obviously not really, but that was a cramped, restricted space situation. And that full-length M16A2 didn't hinder us at all. I don't understand the modern obsession with barrel length. What is it that a short barrel is actually buying you? Yeah, it was. Mark 19. What advantage is there to a short barrel? A 16-inch barrel from a 20-inch barrel is 4 inches. Look. There's no ladies here, is there? Quite a few of you, no, none of you men, but most men throughout the world understand how ineffectual 4 inches is. 4 inches is just not a big deal. And most men in the world know this. All right, the fact that you're a bunch of blessed red-blooded American men, uh, you're just not as familiar with 4 inches as the other men in the rest of the world. 4 inches is nothing. It doesn't affect anything. This is this is a. I blame the army. I blame the army for most things, and this is another one of those damn things I blame the army for. Actually, I should say this. I blame special forces because starting in the 80s, well, really in the 70s, but 80s is kind of. Sharon will make you blush. She's here. Uh, you started seeing SF guys with these little shorty carbines. All right. And everyone wanted to be cool like the SF guys and have little shorty carbines. That is what this short barreled obsession is all about. We're all trying to be SEAL Team 6. Uh, we are not SEAL Team 6. We do not have to fit our rifles into little waterproof rubber baggies we're dragging behind us for 25 miles while we swim ashore. Those 4 inches at the end of your rifle will not negatively affect one single thing in your life. Uh, it's just not. It's not that big a deal. What's 4 inches? That's damn kids have been playing with my tape measure again. All right, 4 inches. One, two, three, four. It's essentially okay. So my finger is 3 inches. My middle finger is 3 1/4. Okay, so it's barely more than a finger's length. We're talking about from here to here. From the bottom of my chin to the tip of my nose. This is not a thing to be worried about. Take your 200 feet per second, take your increased accuracy, take your increased dwell time, take your well-balanced system designed the way God and Eugene Stoner intended it to be, and stop worrying about these 4 inches on the end of this goddamn 30-inch rifle. I don't get it, men. Luke B., you are a valued, respected, honored member of this community. This rant in no way reflects upon your judgment, your morality, your taste. But I don't get it. I don't understand why we're so obsessed about 4 inches at the end of the rifle. Uh, the loss of mobility, the ease of whatever is it's a myth. It's a farce. It's just not. It's not a real thing. If that 4 inches is going to hinder how that rifle handles for you, then you're not strong enough to be using a rifle. All right, rant over. I apologize, Luke B. If I didn't think you couldn't take the heat, I wouldn't have turned up the burner. But M4A1 is... Now, I will say this, Luke. Fair enough. Fair enough. Because I worship at the altar of what I carried in the Marines. And I completely understand that if you carried the M4, that you know the M4, you're familiar with the M4, you're confident in the M4, and you want a 14.5-inch M4. Now that's a different argument. And in that case, I really like the Norevsky Pig. It looks a little bit like a can, but it does a lot of different things for the rifle that are really good for the shorter barrel. I would look into it. I'm not saying it right. but I'm sure you've seen it. These things look almost like suppressors, but they're shorter. They're not suppressors. They may have a slight dampening effect on noise, but not much. And they do some other things that help the shorter barreled rifles. So I would look into those. And I think the first one, or kind of the most popular one, is called the Norevsky, or the Norvesky Pig, I think is what it's called. And in that case, yeah, Noveski. Yeah, Luke knows what I'm talking about. In that case, if that's what you carried in the Army, I'm 100% on board, brother. It's what you know, it's what you're familiar with, it's probably what you're most effective with. And I say go with it. It doesn't surprise me that you young men are more used to shorter, less effective phallic symbols. Because let's be honest, rifles are phallic. Rifles and chainsaws both. My chainsaws are an extension of my penis. That's just straight up. You know, it's somehow innately tied to my masculinity and my manhood. My chainsaws and my rifles. They might as well be penises you can wear outside your clothes. How's that for a little bit of revolting wisdom? Next time you see me do a video with a chainsaw, it's going to get real awkward in the comment section. But yeah, young men just have shorter, less effective phallic symbols, and we have to just let them be who they are. You know, the younger the generation, the less testosterone they have anyway. You know what? I haven't had an axe video in forever, Tim, and I've got a little whiteboard up where I'm supposed to be keeping my ideas, and the number 2 idea up there is axe video. I was kind of hoping North Point Axe was going to be on tonight. I had an update for him, but I'll just text him. They both shoot, but one kills, and the other creates life. Anywho. Whew. Okay, so Luke has 4 kids. That's not too shabby, Luke. Of course, my wife is pregnant with number 16. Now you know why I've got a 20-inch penis. Or at least you know what I do with it. Rob is here. Just got in the house. Didn't know I'll find you here. Howdy. Rob, it's good to hear from you, brother. Rob, have you heard from Colin lately? Actually, I'm not going to say anything more because I'm not supposed to use his name. Well, there's someone in the world named Colin who I know, but that's all I'm telling you. Rob knows him too. Oh, someone was talking about Ireland earlier. Was it Tim? How Ireland is oh, we're losing Les. All right. Take it easy, Les. Thank you. Thank you, Luke. Jesse is saying rookie numbers. Ireland is almost lost to us, and the UK is not too far behind. You know, Kinetic, I say 16, and it is 16. I mean, she is pregnant with our 16th child. But when you have 16, the older ones have actually all aged out already. So my oldest kid is 26. Hey, Tommy. How you doing, sir? And so I've got a 26-year-old, a 24-year-old, 2 22-year-olds. Because three of the 16 are stepdaughters I was blessed with when I married their mother. And then I got a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and then there was like 11, 10, 7, 6, 5, 2, I don't know. Uh, it gets a little weird there towards the bottom. But I had 5 kids with my first wife. I had a son in between the 2 marriages. But I married Mariah. She had 3 kids. And now she's pregnant with our 7th child together. So it's her 10th pregnancy, her 10th child. We've been very blessed that we haven't lost any ever. And then, Tim's oldest is 38. And so you put my 6, her 3, and our 7, and got some fertilizer in your oatmeal or something. The woman won't let me eat oatmeal. Anytime I go for any breakfast that isn't protein based, she instantly says, "No, no, no, no! I'll make you eggs." the woman just feeds me eggs by the dozen. I'm like Gaston. Yeah, I'm definitely up to my 5 dozen eggs. I was a baby during GWOT. GWOT. I don't know what GWOT is. Oh, Global War on Terror. Oh. Yeah, I predate the Global War on Terror. I served from 95 to 99, and then I got out in October 1st of 1999, and then the towers went down famously. You might have all heard of the date. See if I can remember it. That towers went down about a year later, and I got recalled. Was it a year later or 2 years later? I guess I got recalled for a year, but I didn't go overseas. I just went to Quantico, and they did a beefed up security, and so they recalled a bunch of us for that beefed up security. Oh yeah, Rob, I did miss it. I'm sorry. Let me go back and see if I can find it. It's good that Rob showed up right when Les left, so we've got a. Okay, he has heard from him. I was that was a hard thing to hear, Rob. They're going through it over there. I sent him a message earlier tonight, but I haven't checked to see if he responded yet or not. But he's obviously upset, and rightfully so. So I didn't know if you were talking to him. But yeah, so I went to Quantico for a year and freed up a man to fight. So technically, I served in the Global War on Terror, but I didn't do anything. I just sat in Quantico and got drunk for a year, got in a ton of trouble, and made an ass out of myself. Yeah, I agree, Rob. Ireland and the UK is completely in the toilet. I see no way of getting them back. Jesse has no offspring. No decent woman around me. All right, so the other thing we were going to talk about tonight, and Jesse gave us a great segue, and I've still got another 30 minutes here, is so you want a trad wife. Now, Jesse, I'm pretty sure that this doesn't apply to you. I give the same caveat to you I just gave to Luke B about his 14.5-inch penis. But talking to men in general, so you want a trad wife. Okay. My wife is pretty traditional. I have seen my pregnant wife strap a baby to her to go up to the chicken coop in the rain to find eggs for my breakfast. It's pretty traditional. I think I'm not. No, I guess not. I know I've seen her strap her grandchild to her back to go up to the chicken coop to find me eggs for my breakfast, but I don't think she was pregnant. I think that grandbaby's the youngest baby right now. Uh, so my wife's pretty traditional. If you want a trad wife, man, you gotta be willing to be a trad husband. Uh, oh wow, Rob was 40 when he had his first child. I did not know that. But here's the thing about my trad wife. She was not a trad wife when I married her. I take that back. She was not a trad wife when I started dating her. Now I knew right away. I mean, I knew right away that almost within weeks that I wanted to marry her. For a host of reasons, I still think it was God. I don't think God brings most marriages together. I know He brought this one together. Uh, I think for the most part, He lets us find each other, and He cares how we do what we do, not so much exactly what we do. So he who findeth a wife findeth a good thing, is what the scripture says. The scripture doesn't say that God's going to bring you a wife, but He does sometimes, and He did for me. But she wasn't a trad wife when I met her. She wore makeup, she wore big hoop earrings. One of the first times I ever met her, she was smoking a Newport cigarette in the back of an Applebee's. I mean, she was not the woman that some of you men have seen today. I was not the man I am today either, though, too. So, but I knew what I wanted, even if I wasn't living it. And I told her up front what I wanted, and I told her that that's what, if she would agree to be those things, i.e. a trad wife back before trad wife was a thing, that I would marry her and never leave her and always love her. And, and she agreed to those terms. Now, there was a couple times when I had to remind her. And there was a couple times when I had to stand my ground and convince her that I was not compromising on those things. And there was even a couple of times when she called the cops to see how serious I was. Those were the early years. We both had a ton of damage that we had to work through. We had lived just stupid, foolish lives. I mean, you heard the numbers. I had 6 kids by 2 different women. She had 3 kids by 2 different men. I was essentially homeless and living off of my parents. I was unemployed and essentially homeless. She was doing a little better, but she was living in government housing and the whole 9 yards. We were raging train wrecks. Like, my father almost refused to come to our wedding because he said it was a farce. My best friend did refuse to come to our wedding because he said, Zach, this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. And he'd seen me do some really stupid things. He said, this won't last 2 years. My father said the same thing. He said, this will not last 2 years. And here we are 14 years later with 7 more kids and a paid off house. We have a paid off house in 14 years when I was homeless and she was living in government housing 14 years ago. So where people are is not where they will be. And there are so many women now. There's a ton of whores out there. There's a ton of whores that will ruin your life. And my life was where I was at largely due to the choices I had made surrounding women. So I am not telling you go pick one, and it'll all be fine. There is a risk, and it is dangerous, and it is scary. But what I am telling you is that you can greatly increase the odds if you know what you want, if you clearly articulate what you want, if you get her to look you in your eyes and promise you verbally that, yes, I agree that I will conform to this standard and that this is the basis on which you are marrying me. And that if you hold that standard and you do not compromise, most women, well, let me not say most, if you've a lot of women will conform to that standard, whatever that standard is for you. Now that means you can't go looking for the shiny one. You can't go looking for the one with the, you know, the boobs hanging out and the ass ratcheted up with straps and fake eyelashes and fake this and fake that and fake everything else. You might have to accept a woman with some curves and some rolls and some stretch marks and smile lines and the whole 9 yards. But they're out there. There's women out there looking for direction. There's women out there that don't know. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. All of society has been telling them one thing for their entire lives. And no one, not their fathers, not the men in their lives, no one has ever told them the opposite. Everyone has always told them, oh, I listen to a ton of feminist podcasts. I've been on this feminist podcast kick for like a year now, maybe more than a year, because I'm trying to find one of these bitches to explain themselves to me, and they it is so hard to find a smart feminist. I mean, it is really difficult to find a smart feminist. I have listened to a ton of these feminist podcasts, and the vast majority of them are just like Valley girls, and they think that lots of things are really mean, but not their boyfriends, and their boyfriends are really cute. And that's most feminist podcasts. Then there's the other feminist podcasts who are just fixated like a bulldog, like a pit bull in a pit in the middle of on Housework. These women hate Housework. Oh my God, you would think washing the dishes was the Baton Death March. You would think it was the Trail of Tears to do laundry. I heard a podcast recently where one of these women, the whole reason she divorced her husband, this was domestic abuse. She accused him of being a domestic abuser because in their entire marriage, for their whole marriage, she says he never once put one thing in the trash. Okay, first off, I call bullshit. There is no way that any person of any stripe, of any moral degradation, of any ethical failure, no matter how degraded, no matter how coarse, no matter how ignorant and unrefined, will you ever go for a whole week and not put something in the trash can? Not a thing. But she said those words. He literally never once put one thing in the trash can. I call bullshit. But let's give this woman her crazy pronouncement. Let's assume for 1 second that this man never once put one thing in the trash can in their entire marriage. Okay. Now, she does admit that he was a good father. She does admit that he was a good provider and made a lot of money. And she did admit that he never hit her. She made all three of those admissions in this podcast, where she went on and on and on about how he was a domestic abuser because he never once put one thing in the trash can. Bitch, how much do you think trash collectors get paid? She wrote 5 books during their marriage. She says she wrote 9 books overall. She'd written 4 books since she divorced his ass. That means she'd written 5 books while she was married to him. Now, she says that the reason why it was domestic abuse is because this man went out of his way to not do housework in order to make sure that she had to do housework so that she would never have any time to be creative. She couldn't pursue her art because she was too busy cleaning up his mess. The man had a good, high-paying job. He was gone at least 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, woman. What the hell are you doing with your time? She didn't have a baby till she was 42 years old. She was 50 when she made this podcast. She had an 8-year-old. It was her only child. This woman didn't have a child till she was 42 years of age. She only had 1 child, and her husband had a good, high-paying job. And she didn't have time to take out the trash and do some art? Bullshit, you whiny bitch. You are a child, and not even a good child. Not even a fun, cute child that's nice to have around. This is an immature, self-absorbed, selfish cunt. There's no other way to say that. She was so mad. She was still bitter and angry that this man had abused her by having a good paying job and being a good father and providing a home. This pissed her off so bad that he had stole so much from her that she was still mad 4 years later, and she had written a book, a novel, trashing him. I mean, this whole book was just trashing him, including now, and see, it's fiction, and she would act like, well, I'm not going to tell you exactly what in the book is from my own life and what is fiction, but then she would talk about the events in the book like they happened to her, you know, and there was no difference in her narrative between her and the character in her book. She wrote this whole part of her book where she says this man's mother, who he loved apparently, told this woman something right before she died. It was the woman's last words or something, and she interprets them in this book as this man's mother denouncing him as a bad man. Now, that is not what the thing the mother had told this wife wasn't even about her son. It was about her first marriage. But the woman writing this book interpreted it as having been about the dying woman's son, the author's husband. And she used his mother's last words that weren't about him to tell him his mother hated him. That's how vile this whore was. Vile woman. Now, I don't know how you avoid that woman, but that's a mean, miserable, petty, vicious whore. And don't you ever tell me that there's nothing a woman can do that's worse than a man slapping her. Female violence is just as vicious and bad and destructive as male violence. As that woman proves. I wish I could remember her name. I would do a video denouncing her publicly. I should have thought about that when I was listening, but I was just so blown away that anyone could be that evil, that petty, that atrocious of a person. And she's talking, of course, to this other woman who's also recently divorced. And they're both just crowing about how deliriously happy they are now that they've divorced their husbands. And their marriages were so hideous because they had to do housework. They had to do housework. And how productive they are now that the husband's gone, and how much better their relationship with their children are now that, and neither one of these women say that their husbands were physically abusive. It was just the presence of the man, period. And these are liberal men. Both women said the same thing. Yes. Why are liberal men like this? We thought we were marrying liberal men, that they would be different. So these are men who describe themselves as feminists, which is a lot of the problem. But you know what was going on. These women were doing it to themselves. They were coming up with this fake standard for their living arrangements that they no longer hold. Now that the man's gone, this was a way to try to control these men. They wanted to be constantly stressed and overworked so they could have the people around them jumping through hoops and serving them. And of course, these men weren't playing the game, because at the end of the day, men don't really care that much what the house looks like. It would be nice if it wasn't filthy. It would be nice if the laundry was folded and put away. I frequently open my sock drawer and realize this is what love looks like. I recognize that as a man, that when I open my sock drawer and all of my socks and my underwear are folded and neatly arranged, that is an act of love and affection. All right? Left to my own devices, when I lived by myself, the only way I knew if my clothes were dirty or clean is because clean clothes were on the bed and dirty clothes were on the floor. And if, when I threw myself into bed at the end of the night, I sometimes knocked the clean clothes down on the floor, I just assumed they were dirty and washed them again, when I infrequently washed them. Okay? I recognize that my sock drawer is an act of love on my wife's part. And I acknowledge it as such, and I value it as such. But if you asked me what I was willing to sacrifice in order to have an arranged sock drawer, I would look you in the face and say, a what? I value the sentiment that goes into the sock drawer. I don't value the socks in the sock drawer. So if you are giving me something that I don't value, socks in the drawer, and requiring something I do value, now remember, I value the love that went into putting the socks in the drawer. I value the effort of her putting the socks in the drawer. But if that love and that effort comes with me having to sacrifice my dignity, or invest a lot of time and energy somewhere else that is not commensurate with what the socks being in the drawer is worth to me, that I'm going to tell my wife, thank you for this affection you've expressed, but let's find a different way to express this affection, because I do not value the socks in the drawer as much as you value the socks in the drawer. So let's forget about the socks in the drawer, and let's find another way for you to express affection to me. And then she's going to say, oh, no, but I want socks in the drawer, and I don't want your socks on the floor. Okay, so at that point, this is not about me. This is about you. This is something you want. You want the socks in the drawer. Why are you expecting me to sacrifice for something that is for you? Because I am perfectly happy to have the socks on the bed. Love the affection. Love the clean room. Love it when things are organized and shiny. They smell nice. I come home at night and the living room's clean and all the toys are away and the table's clear and I can look around and appreciate the effort and the excellence that went in to accomplishing all that. But if you want me to sacrifice for it, well, now we're going to have to start talking about hierarchy of priorities and what I'm willing to invest. Because I was perfectly happy living in some horrific environments. I've lived some ways that make me blush now to think back on it. Let's see what Steve just said. Steve said, I'm divorced now. My current level of sloth is if I can find my tools and materials when needed, that's clean enough. I tell you, some of the happiest I've ever been is I was living in a house by myself. And I just brought all of my tools and all of my projects right into the house. And I would just build furniture in the living room, run the sander, run the saw, right there in the living room of the house. And I could just pick up my tools when I wanted to work, and I could set down my tools when I was done working, and I got some impressive projects done in that period of my life because everything was right there. And I could walk in the house and take 10 minutes and work on it and then go on, and everything was set out and everything was where I left it and everything was where I needed to be when I picked it up. There was no setup time, there was no tear down time. I didn't have to prepare or get ready. I just was able to walk in and go, I think I'll sand that now. Sawdust everywhere. You know what? I never cleaned that sawdust. It got gone somehow. All right, we got the Obrado. Howdy, Revolting Man, longtime viewer, first-time commenter. Just had a bear kill 2 sheep and a goat last night. Shit. So I'm sleeping in the barn with my 12 gauge. Thanks for the company. Hey, we're glad to be keeping you company. That's kind of a fun. I mean, it's terrible that you lost 2 sheep and a goat, but it's kind of cool that you get to sleep in the barn with a 12 gauge and try to kill the son of a bitch. I tell you what, very few places in the world do men get to sleep in the barn with a 12 gauge to shoot the bear that's after their livestock anymore. We live in a great country. We act like the frontiers are closed and there's no new adventures and the whole world's boring, but by God, somewhere that we could drive to right now if we really wanted to, someone's got to sleep in the barn with a shotgun to protect their sheep from the bear. What a great country. Oh, Tommy's got a good point. That bear has a full belly, weighed about 2 to 3 days. Good evening, Engineered to Succeed. How you doing, sir? I've got some friends who live out in Arizona, and they had a cougar, a mountain lion, with 2 cubs that was killing their goats, and they killed like 14 goats in one night. And they went out with some dogs and tracked down these mountain lions and shot them out of a tree. Some of the coolest pictures you've ever seen in your life. They got a bunch of kids. I think they got 12 kids. And their older boys were holding these. There were 90-pound cats, and their older boys were holding these dead cats, and their eyes were just. I mean, these boys were as happy as boys have ever been in their lives. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I've got people I got to call too, Rob. I owe the Sasquatch a phone call. Oh, good. Engineered to Succeed got to spend the Sabbath with family. Tom says, I'm 90% sure it was a mountain lion. Never seen it, but something growled at me one night. Steve Hall says, a bear got 2 of our sheep last winter. My son finally improved the fencing. Oh wow, Tommy says such a deep growl. I felt it reverbing in my chest. I live in Northeast Georgia, kind of right at the beginning of the Appalachian Mountains. If you went, 100 foot south of me, you'd be out of the mountains, and if you went 100 feet north of me, you'd be at the peak of a mountain. So I'm like right there at the upside slope. Oh yeah, hey Buddy Bear, thank you. I'm glad you're here. My phone that you called the other day is something's wrong with the speaker, and I can't get voice out. So I'm going to be calling you I'll text you first. I'm going to be calling you from a 404 number, but I don't remember. I wouldn't say it here anyway. I've just got to transfer your number over to my work phone so I can text you and give you a call. But for whatever reason, my phone, the number that you have, the speakers doesn't work. And a palmetto paratrooper killed a rooster and a hen. Well, that doesn't really compare. These people are killing bears and mountain lions, and you're talking about killing chickens? Okay, Tommy says, if I may humbly request a friendly prayer for myself, I'm currently up for a huge promotion at work, and it would speed up me getting to an early retirement escape. We will definitely keep that in our prayers, Tommy. That would be a wonderful thing, and I'm sure that you've earned it. Oh, the dogs killed the rooster and the hen. Well, don't be snarky with me, because your comment was exactly killed a rooster and a hen. That's all the information you gave me. I'm scrolling back. And there was no lead up to that. The last thing you said was bear, better go with a 10 gauge. Then I scroll down here to the bottom and suddenly killed a rooster and a hen. It's not my fault you can't communicate clearly. Damn paratroopers. Can only say the words Geronimo and ouch. And stripper. Geronimo, ouch. Stripper. You can have a conversation with a paratrooper. You just got to know how to say, yeah, Geronimo, jump. And Motrin, drink water, and strip club that way. Those are all the only responses you need when you talk to a paratrooper. Rob's in trouble with his wife. She heard us talking. Ha. Rob, go put the trash in the trash can for the first time in your married life. All right, Wes killed a deer with the mountain lion that was stealing his watermelons. Steve moved to remote Appalachia in 09. Best move I ever made. I love the Appalachian Mountains, Steve. I wish I lived farther up in them. Are you on top chat or live chat? I have absolutely no idea, Palmetto. I'm on whatever shows up on my phone. Good night, Rob. Tell your wife we said we didn't mean it. It was all a lie. No, I'm kidding. It's not. Oh, Brado! So how's your garden been this year? Up in Wisconsin, there's been so much rain, it killed all my damn potatoes. So I'm actually going to do it. I meant to do a garden video this week. Damn it. So we did a combined garden with my father-in-law this year. He has about 6 acres, about 2 miles down the road. He's got a real nice bottomland. And so we put in about an acre over there. And Mariah and the boys have been working it with him, and it looks pretty good. It's been a little bit of a weird year. The corn didn't do great. Irish potatoes never do great for us, but they did okay this year. The sweet potatoes look like they're doing good. Of course, beans and field peas are just indestructible. Uh, the watermelons are doing fantastic. And of course, squash. You can't kill squash. Um, yeah, that's kind of where we've been engineered. It was a cool spring. Then we hit a really dry spell for a while. And now we're getting a lot of rain all at once. Uh, so it hasn't been a bad year, but it's been a weird year. And the things we normally expect to do really well have not done so well. But we've got about 200 sweet potato plants in. Oh, look at that. Engineered just tomatoes and jalapenos have been great. For some reason, tomatoes, everyone I've talked to who's done tomatoes around here for the last 5 or 6 years, it seems like, I might be exaggerating, but that's what it seems like. Their tomatoes just aren't doing well. Uh, and haven't for years. Now we're having a problem with stink bugs. That's everything else will squash by hand, but no one wants to squash stink bugs. I wouldn't squash them by hand. I'm gonna ask anyone else to. Uh, so the stink bugs are causing a little bit of damage. Yeah, the Japanese beetles are bad. I finally broke down last year and sprayed them. There were thousands of them on my apple tree, and I just said I gotta. And it was the third year in a row where they had just stripped my apple tree, and they ate the apples, they ate the leaves, and they just come and go in by the thousands. And I just finally said, you know what, I gotta break this cycle. And I got some powerful chemicals, and I just went nuts on them. It broke the cycle finally, but it was bad. We try to do everything organic, but I'm not against the occasional use of modern technology uh, to make things better, to treat individual problems. I just don't want to use it constantly because then it, throws everything out of whack. But every once in a while, I don't mind, unleashing the power of technology to live better through chemistry every once in a while. Yep. And I did last year. I just, I covered that thing. Uh, and we didn't have very many Japanese beetles this year. Uh, so yeah, the garden's doing fairly well. The test, as always, will be the sweet potatoes, because how I judge these things is calories produced, and sweet potatoes are the main calorie crop uh, that we grow. Since I don't eat catfish anymore, when I catch one, I don't throw it back. I bury it in the garden. That's a good idea. I have access to a livestock auction with a mountain of manure behind it, and they let us use the skid steer to load the dump truck, and I can actually bring manure in by the dump truck load. Uh, the problem I have right now, as always, is that my equipment is broken, and if I can ever have equipment that works, I can really have a nice place going here, because we've got the start of something pretty cool. But I've got to be able to bush hog. I just got to be able to bush hog and plow. Uh, I mean, it's to the point where if I don't get my Graveleys working this year, I'm going to give up and go into debt and buy a small tractor. Well, look, if you've got marginal land and you have access to a pickup truck and a livestock auction, uh, you can probably get free manure. Now, it's going to have the Grazon in it, But so far, I haven't noticed a problem with the grays on. I think that's overblown, to be honest with you. Oh, I think we're winding down here, man. I got about another 10 minutes on this. So what do we want to wrap up with? Oh yeah, silt bottom palms are really good. Yeah, Palmetto hasn't had any issues with the grays on either. Uh, Wife is doing well. You know, she's pregnant, so she's a little sleepy. I'm sure she's in bed already tonight. Uh, but but doing well. We're all excited. I could give you a rundown on how everyone's doing, but it would take so long. I went belly up in debt and got a place in Kentucky. I think it was 25-ish acres. House, barn, outbuilding. Saw it listed, called the next day, and took vacation to go take a look. Very nice. Yeah, you know, my 40s engineered had just been the best decade of my life, and my 20s were a pretty good decade. But the 40s had just been amazing. I'll be 49 in October, so they're about done. But if my 50s are half of what my 40s have been, you know, I'm excited. So much good stuff has happened in my 40s that more good stuff has happened in the last 10 years than it happened in the 30 years prior, 40 years prior. Someone sent me a preliminary offer of $140,000 for a property I paid 26,000 for. Holy shit. Can you believe what's going on with property values? I paid $30,000 for this place 14 years ago or 13 years ago, whatever the hell it was. And the comps around me that are not as nice as mine, not that mine is very nice, but it's nicer than the ones around me. And they're going for over $150,000. It's just nuts. Tom says he's 43. It's not been bad, given I now need glasses. Well, if that's the worst thing that's happened. Bifocals at that, and have arthritis. Great decade so far, but physically breaking down. Yeah, now I'll be honest, Tom. I've been blessed with a physicality I don't deserve. Uh, uh, and partly because I'm a smaller framed man. And you know, we're just easy on our bodies. You know, we don't have all that damn stress going on that some bigger men have. And I've also been very, 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 very blessed with a metabolism I don't deserve. And I've been trying to get better about my diet here as of late. But you know, a lot of people don't have the ability I have had to not suffer the consequences for my dietary decisions. And when I was younger, I was a little judgmental on some bigger people. And now that my metabolism is not as good as it has always been, I am much more circumspect about such things, because I finally gotten to the point where I can put on weight, and that's not a good thing. So I'm a smaller frame guy who doesn't have a lot of weight on me, and it's kept a lot of the wear and tear off. I've been pretty blessed in that regard. I'm in fairly good health. We've started having some cancer scares in the men in the family, though. My dad and one of my brothers has come down with prostate cancer, so I need to start thinking along those lines. And my grandfather on my mother's side had it too, but his was a real slow, non-aggressive thing, and he's in his 90s now, and he's been living with the prostate cancer for decades. But my dad's only 68, and his hit him hard and fast. And my brother's a year younger than me, and his hit hard and fast. So I'm trying to get better about cutting out sugar and eating a much simpler diet because I can't really afford health care, so I don't know that I'm going to go get tested or anything. I might get my PSAs checked. And maybe if my PSAs are super high, I might think about some poor person insurance because, I've got a baby on the way and I can't be dying yet. No, Palmetto, I don't have any service-connected disabilities that would let me into the VA. Hell, my dad was on nuclear submarines in the 70s, and he came down with the cancer and was diagnosed, and he tried to go to the VA, and they told him, nah. I will be happy to look into it, Palmetto. Maybe I misunderstand how it is. I know when my dad tried to go, they told him that he wasn't eligible. Now maybe because I was global war on terror and all that stuff. Who knows? Maybe I could get in. I haven't tried. But I was just always under the assumption is, you had to have a service-connected disability. And I could probably get my hands looked at because I had a pretty bad hand injury while I was in. They did surgery and I had pins and stuff. But my hand's fine. Actually, the hand that hand, the left hand is fine. But yeah, I wouldn't mind getting that checked just because it's weighing on my mind just a little bit. It's like, well, shit. Clearly, it's prevalent in the family. My brother's a year younger than me. We're full brothers, so we've got basically the same genetics. Yeah, Tom's saying the same thing. A vet from work doesn't have a service-connected disability, but the VA pays for his doctor appointments now. Take your DD-14 and go to the damn VA. Maybe I'll give him a call. But, if I get my PSAs checked and they're in normal range, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to try not to worry about it. Because I don't have any symptoms. I mean, I did just impregnate my wife for the 10th time or 7th time or 12th time, 13th time. Palmetto says, I have a year's supply of albuterol because of the VA. It would be nice to have some health insurance, just because you've done well when you lose track. Yeah, well, because we've got the 16, but one of them she's pregnant with now, and 3 of them didn't come from my loins. So there's 13 that I generated, but 7 of those were with her, and 6 of them were with 2 other women. So Tom says, I have a buddy in Colorado. The VA gives him magic mushroom capsule every month for his PTSD. Yeah, now if I could go and have a little bit of PTSD, here's the thing with me though. I served in the infantry during the global war on terror and through the pretty tumultuous Clinton years, and I never saw combat. It was the craziest thing ever. because I went to Haiti, but when I got to, Haiti, the shooting had just stopped. Uh, I went to Bosnia, and the shooting had just stopped. I went to Kosovo, and the shooting didn't start until I left. And then I got out, and the towers came down, and I got recalled. But I got recalled so early that we didn't go overseas yet. So I got put on, guard duty in the States, and the men who got recalled after me are the ones who go into Afghanistan and Iraq. So I've never seen combat. So it's hard to blame my idiosyncrasies on my military service, because my military service was fun and frolic for 5 years. I got to travel all over the place. I got to shoot a bunch of really cool guns. I got to blow a bunch of shit up, but none of it was ever in anger. And all of it was under the watchful eye of range safety officers. So it feels a little, when I'm talking to men who've actually seen combat and risked their lives. Sometimes I feel like I just need to sit down and shut up and not, go strain the VA system anymore for the men who earned it. But I mean, I've got honorable service. I'm proud of it. If another man who had my service said what I just said, I would tell him to shut the hell up and go to the VA and get what he's deserved, what he's earned. Because it's not about him. It's about those other men who can't. So I mean, I get everything you're about to say. I'm not humble bragging. I'm not trying to you know fish for compliments here or anything. Uh, I'm just saying, I sometimes I don't feel like a poser, but I feel like the men who did more should be first in line. You know, I was willing to do more. I'm proud of that. I don't feel any shame in my service. I'm not embarrassed about it or anything. It was simply a matter of timing. Uh, I got very, very lucky. Now that I'm old, I know how lucky I was. When I was young, I was all mad about it. I thought I wanted to go to war and be a hero, and of course now I know I was protected from really bad experiences. And that's part of the reason why I honor those men so much, because sure, I was willing, but in the end I wasn't tested. I wasn't called on. I don't know for sure. I think I would have done what I needed to do. There's no reason for me to think I wouldn't have done what I needed to do, but I didn't have to do it. And that is still a distinction. The men who did have to do it and did it, they deserve to go to the head of the line. It's not a struggle though, Palmetto. It's just honoring men who should be honored. That's just it. It's just right. It's just fair. It's just what should be. Those who give the most deserve the extra respect. And I'm never going to denigrate my service. Like I said, I'm proud of it. It was honorable. You know, I'll stand with pride when they ask for veterans to rise and the whole 9 yards. Uh, but I do know that there are those who, this is going to sound weird. Veterans will get what I'm about to say. And I think most men will, because men are good at hierarchy. There is a certain level of respect that I will demand from men who haven't served. Not for me, but because the service deserves respect and service should be encouraged. And if I allowed my service to be disrespected, I'm allowing the service to be disrespected, not me. And also, there's those men above me who, if I allow my service to be denigrated, it takes their service down a notch. Uh, so, it's not about me, it's about the service. But the service I did was not as costly to me as the service other men have done. So I have to put my service in its proper place. I can't put it low, and I can't put it high. It's got to go where it goes. Uh, and where it goes is I didn't see combat, and that's the ultimate test. So I didn't do the ultimate test. I don't get the ultimate honor. I I I did some good hard tests. I proved myself in some ways I'm proud of. I get that next level of honor down. I do think now, I didn't see combat, but I did get in some stressful situations, and I feel like we tiptoed up close to the line a couple times. Uh, I feel like I at least got a sense that I would have stood fast and done my duty had I been called upon. I had to I had to lock and load once. It was oh no, twice. Well, it was twice, but it was the same day. So it was one incident. A guy was trying to run me over with a horse. It was a little weird. It was a weird day though. It had been a weird 24-hour period. This was in Haiti. Uh, I don't know how much of this story I'm going to tell because my cigar's almost gone. But we'd been in Haiti for a couple of months and doing some stupid shit. It was the dumbest. This was the Clinton years and it was Haiti. So, you know, we all know now in retrospect, how corrupt all that was and how much they were stealing from the UN and everything. But they had us down there doing some stupid shit. And the Marines at the embassy had invited us over for, was it the Marine Corps ball? Yeah, I didn't meet barbecue. Or I might have, actually. He'd have been young then. Anyway, they invited us over to the embassy, they call it the Marine House. It's where the Marines who guard the embassy live. And so they had invited our platoon over to have just a fun night. And man, they got us drunk off our gourd. Well, they didn't get me drunk because I was the driver. I was junior man, so I drove the Humvee. But everyone else just got drunk off their damn gourds. I mean, as drunk as I've seen that many Marines. It was bad. And it's like we were driving back through Port-au-Prince, and I can't remember how many Marines we had in the Humvee, but we had a lot of Marines in the Humvee, way more than we had seats. And I mean, they were like trying to rip the shirts off of people as we drove past them. One guy was trying to smash windshields with his fist as we drove. And, they'd be coming the other way, and he'd be punching the windshield. I don't even know how he didn't break his hand. It was crazy, just insane. It's kind of funny, but it wasn't funny. I mean, we were being destructive. Anyway, so the next morning, the whole platoon is just. Oh, it was a squad. I'm sorry, a squad. The whole squad was just hungover and still drunk, and we had to go out on post. And I was the only sober one because I'd driven the Humvee, and it wasn't going to be a big deal, because we just had to secure this one area, and it wasn't a big area, and it had razor wire, and I was going to be able to do it by myself for a few hours while everyone got sobered up, and so they all went back in the GP tent and just found places to puke and sleep and pound water, and I mean they were dead to the world, and the Seabees come up, and they were there too. And they had to move the work site, and they decided that was the day they were going to build the new work site that we were going to secure. So now suddenly we had to secure 2 work sites, and we only had 1 Marine, me. Everyone else was passed out. And I was a PFC. I mean, I was young as hell. I didn't know what was going on. I was going out of my mind. What do I do? What do I do? You know, I can't let anyone find out my squad is completely incapacitated, drunk. And so I got the most sober of the guys to come out and just stand at the gate while I drove off with the Seabees. I know as soon as I left, he went back and laid back down. But so the Seabees took me down about a mile away, and they start building this new work site. And the first thing they had to do was put wire around it. But I don't know what the hell they were building. But they started putting wire around something the size of about 3 football fields. It was gigantic. And they had 3 crews working. And these guys were hundreds of meters apart. And they decided to build the new work site right on what looked like a goat path, but turns out was a major Haitian highway, right outside a major village. And so all these Haitians are trying to walk up and down the road. And all these kids come out and try to see what's going on. And Haitians, God, this is the worst thieves, terrible thieves. And there's all these people are starting to get, congregating and mingling and starting to look for things they can steal. And so each work group has like a dozen or so Haitians sort of shadowing them. And of course we had females out there because Clintons. And one of these little females waddles down to where I was standing, because I had gone to their chief and said, "Chief, look, you guys can only have 1 crew. I can't secure you if you're this far apart. I can't guard this much space by myself." And he was like, "Well, you're just gonna have to do it, Marine. Fucking Navy. Sorry if you're a squidly, but I was not happy with you guys that day." So PFC, I didn't know that I had the power to shut the whole damn thing down. And so I'm trying to, anyway, this little fat female sailor waddles up to me and, Marine, they're down there swearing at us. Come make them stop swearing. I kid you not, that's exactly what she said. So I book it down there and I chase these kids as they were just kids. They literally like young teenagers, probably, 12, 13, 14, maybe 15. They don't have good nutrition down there. And those kids suddenly realized that I was the only one with a rifle. And so they would wait until I was down at one end running them off of that group, and another group would start harassing the other work party. So I'd have to turn around and race down the other one. And they were doing it to me on purpose. And like I'd get almost to that group and those kids would run, and I would just turn around and start running back the other way because I knew when I turned around they were going to be back at that other one harassing these people. Well, they don't have cable TV in Haiti, or at least they didn't back then. And watching this white boy run back and forth was one of the most entertaining shit they had ever seen. So they kept it up all morning. And I was exhausted. I mean, I was ready to kill my squad. Because I couldn't even call up there. I couldn't even get on the radio and call up there without someone figuring out what the hell, that my whole squad was up there passed out in a hooch. And they finally got the first string of wire up. And the kids went away. But then all the people wanted to start, I don't know if it was Haitian lunch or whatever, but all these people started wanting to go up the highway that we thought was a goat path that we were blocking off. And so they finally got wire up on both sides of the goat path. And they got wire up around the whole perimeter, and I thought I could relax. But there was an opening at one end of the double-stranded wire and at the other end of the double-stranded wire. And these openings were a couple 100 yards apart. Now, it was like a tunnel. So like on the outside, it was 3 strands high. It was 2 strands, 1 strand. And on the inside, it was something similar. And then there was just this path down the middle that was just big enough to maybe drive a Humvee through. Damn it. One more. And so it got time for all these Haitians to come home, uh, and and anyway, they were inside my wire, and that young PFC revolting was not going to let people be inside his wire. So I start having to run back and forth again to both openings, pushing people back both ways. Hey, engineered to succeed. Apparently, my story's not that interesting. That's all right. I've been insulted by better looking people than you. Uh, and finally, they get really mad. I mean, they get really mad. And this one kid gets on a horse, a Haitian horse. So, I mean, it's not a great horse, but it's still a horse. Uh, and he waits till I get down at one side, and he starts charging the horse through the other side, just galloping him down this concertina wire tunnel. And it's a long straightaway. It's a couple hundred meters, yards, if you want to call it that, probably 200 yards or so, where I'm just standing there, concertina, 8 foot to the left of me, concertina 8 foot to the right of me. Uh, I'm just kidding, engineer. And this horse is charging at me. A damn horse. A guy on a horse. And I just remember thinking, holy shit, I'm about to have to shoot this guy. Do I shoot him or do I shoot the horse? I didn't know which one to do. I was like in the middle of this. It was a couple hundred yards that way. I was never, well, it was probably like 150, but I was not going to get out before the horse got to me. And of course, going that way, that's where the horse was coming from. And I racked around and I'm thinking, do I shoot the horse or do I shoot him? And I was just coming up about where I was going to have to decide to shoot the horse or go up to shoot the guy. And I kept thinking, you can't really shoot the dude, but the horse hasn't done anything wrong. And at the last second, when I was going to have to make up my mind, he turned the horse hard and ran the horse into the concertina wire. And he went through all 3 rows. He went in that top row and he just like pinballed all the way down through those 3 rows of concertina wire and went out the other side in a flash. I never saw him again, but I would not, it would, this kid, he was again a teenager, he had to just be shredded. He had to be shredded. Uh, if he didn't bleed to death, the infections had to have killed him. And then the horse was stuck in the concertina wire. The horse had both legs inside the strands of wire, you know? So here I am, trying to get a horse unstuck from concertina wire. But I had racked around and I was coming up to shoot the kid. I still don't know if I was going to shoot him or the horse to this day. I hope I would have shot the horse, but I think I might have shot the kid. I don't know. But anyway, at this point, I get pissed and I'm mad as hell. And this guy pulls up in a taxi, and he comes in. He's trying to talk to me, and he's trying to be really reasonable, and he's trying to just explain to me, look, I understand. I just need to drive from here to there, and I'll be right back. I just got to drop these people off. I won't. And I was like, get out of my wire, get out of my wire, get out of my wire. And he keeps trying to reason with me, and finally, I just snapped. I'd had enough. And I whipped out my pepper spray and I just hosed that asshole down. I mean, just, and he hit the ground, boom, and he starts rolling around and going, why pepper spray? Why pepper spray? Why? And I didn't even feel bad. I just grabbed his ass and threw him out of my wire. And the people who he was driving in the taxi actually come and got him and put him in the back of and they drove off with him in his own taxi. But then all those people who were milling around, they started getting pissed. And they started picking up like rocks and sticks and shit and yelling. And there was about 50 or 60 of them who start moving towards me. And I went, oh, fuck. And I re-racked that. It's funny. This is not funny. This is bad. I had failed to clear the round from earlier. So I still had a round in the chamber from when I was going to shoot the horse. So I racked around and discharged the round that was in the chamber and went, hee! But I racked around and I came up again And as soon as I came up, it was magic. I don't know where those 50 or 60 people went, but it was poof. They were gone. They just disappeared. And then, so this was about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and my squad leader finally got out of the rack and came down and said, "Whoa, Austin, what's been going on, man?" And I was just pissed. I just let him have it. I just lost my shit. He was a corporal, I was a PFC, and I just laid into him. "You assholes have been up there sleeping. I'm down here running my ass off, man. I'm just almost had to shoot people, and I was going to go to Leavenworth for the and he's like, Austin, calm down, man. It's okay." And I didn't even get like I couldn't tell anybody what had happened. So normally, if I'd have pepper sprayed a guy and dragged him out of the wire, I would at least gone up on a little board, attaboy, PFC. But I couldn't even do that because then I'd have to explain why I was down there by myself all day. I was so mad. But it was a good day. It was a good day. Come on. Okay, this is probably silly. I can't even light the damn thing without singeing my mustache. I should just call this one. I'm just never ready for them to be over, All right, man. So we just got a few minutes left. What do we want to talk about on our way out? God, we're down to 15. 15 of y'all diehards have held out for all of this. And you're even listening to an old boring sea story where no one even gets shot. What a terrible sea story. No one even got shot. See? You see why I don't go to the VA? I don't rate it. My best war story is that I almost got run over by a horse. A horse. On the eve of drone warfare, just a few years before, automated T-800s or whatever, I'm getting run over by a horse. Anywho. All right, what comments did I miss while I was doing all that? Oh, now I can't. Oh, there they go. Okay, Palmetto says, "I remember being in formation and my whole squad was still drunk from the night before. We pressed our shoulders together and swayed in unison." All right, and then ETS had to duck out. Obradato said, "Hell of a story. Thank you, Landon. I appreciate you." Yeah, right before the Terminators roll in, I'm fighting horses. But it was fun. Let's see. Tommy says, "I beg to differ. The ones who gave the most are still suffering with lost limbs and horrific scars." That is true. The ones who survive with really bad wounds, physical wounds, are the ones who gave the most. Palmetto says there is no hierarchy of service. It's all equal. Thank you, Palmetto. But you do have your combat infantry badge. So, all right. So that's. Oh, Obravato says, "My boss is on the heavy side and he pays into the insurance at the company, but honestly, it doesn't seem like it does him any damn good against just going in uninsured." That is probably true, Obrado. The Obrado. I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry. Did you ever, Palmetto asked, "Did you ever receive any form of hazardous duty pay?" Yes, we got hazardous duty pay in Haiti, Bosnia, and Kosovo, I think. I keep losing it. Tommy got an ELS for undiscovered asthma during basic, week 5. Oh, wow. So you've got separated. Oh man, you made it all the way to week 5. Yeesh. Obrado says a lot of folks nowadays hedge their bets against active duty when they enlist. So if you went in with the intention to serve, that's honorable in itself. Thank you, sir. All right. I think we're caught up. Yo, men, we live in interesting times. I know you're all week 5 expert during BRM. I don't know what BRM is. Basic rifle marksmanship, probably. Yeah, can't. Oh, you with the asthma, you can't run. Yeah, that makes sense. I know you're all prepared. I know you're all. We're done. This is done. This is silly. I look like a dope fiend smoking a roach. I just really enjoy my cigars. Okay. We live in interesting times. It has been a historic week. I know we didn't talk about it that much, but we do appreciate you, and we look forward to talking to you. Maybe not next week. I've got to work Friday and Sunday next weekend, so I might not be able to get some hemostats on that. I might not be able to get a video or a live stream out next week, but who knows? Maybe I can get I've got a few days off this week. Maybe I can get a video in the can before next week and put her live Friday. That would be the mature thing to do. All right, man. Y'all have a good evening. We really appreciate you hanging out with us this evening. Yeah, the entire last decade has kind of been historic, Tommy. Shalom, Landon. Good evening. Shaving a haircut 2 bits. Hey, 10 Tigers, I noticed you earlier. I don't remember if I said hello or not, but good to see you. And we will talk to you soon, man. Thank you.